what General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
The Battle of Britain was a major air campaign fought largely over southern England in the summer and autumn of 1940. After the evacuation of the British expeditionary forces from Dunkirk and the fall of France, Germany planned to gain air superiority in preparation for an invasion of Great Britain. The pilots of the RAF Fighter Command, flying iconic aircraft including the Hurricane and Spitfire, were supported by the vast network of ground crew during the battle. Ultimately, the Luftwaffe was defeated by Fighter Command, forcing Adolf Hitler to abandon his invasion plans. Adolf Hitler had expected the British to seek a peace settlement after Germany's defeat of France in 1940, but Britain was determined to fight on. Hitler explored military options which would bring war to a quick end and ordered his armed forces to prepare for an invasion of Britain, codenamed Operation Sea Lion. But for the invasion to have any chance of success, the Germans needed to first secure control of the skies over southern England and remove the threat posed by the Royal Air Force. A sustained air assault on Britain would achieve the decisive victory needed to make Sea Lion a possibility. The Battle of Britain was ultimately a test of strength between the Luftwaffe and the RAF. The RAF had become an independent branch of the British Armed Forces in 1918. Although it developed slowly in the years following the First World War, it went through a period of rapid expansion in the later half of the 1930s, largely in response to the growing threat of Nazi Germany. In July 1936, RAF Fighter Command was established under the leadership of Air Marshal Hugh Dowding. Germany had been banned from having an air force after the First World War, but the Luftwaffe was reinstated by the Nazi government, and by 1940 it was the largest and most formidable air force in the world. It had suffered heavy losses in the Battle of France, but by August the air fleet that would carry out the assault on Britain were at full readiness. The RAF met its challenge, and some of the best fighter aircraft in the world, the Hawker Hurricane and the Supermarine Spitfire. The British developed an air defence network that would give them a critical advantage over the Battle of Britain. The Dowding system, named for Fighter Command's Commander-in-Chief Sir Hugh Dowding, brought together technologies such as radar, ground defences and fighter aircraft into a unified system of defence. The RAF organised the defence of Britain into four geographical areas called groups, which were further divided into sectors. The main fighter field in each sector, the sector station, was equipped with an operations room from which the fighters were directed into combat. Radar gave early warning of Luftwaffe raids, which were also tracked by Observer Corps. Information on oncoming raids were passed to the filter room at Fighter Command headquarters at Bentley Priory. Once the direction of the raid was clearly established, the information was sent to the relevant group headquarters. From there it was sent to the sector stations, which would scramble fighters into action. The sector stations received an update information as it became available, and the further directed airborne fighters by radio. The operations room also directed other elements of the defence network, including anti-aircraft guns, searchlights and barrage balloons. The Dowding system could process huge amounts of information in a short period of time. It allowed Fighter Command to manage its valuable and relatively limited resources, making sure they were not wasted. The Battle of Britain took place between July and October 1940. The Germans began attacking coastal targets and the British shipping operating in the English Channel. They launched their main offensive on the 13th of August. Attacks moved inland, concentrating on airfields and communication centres. Fighter Command offered stiff resistance despite coming under enormous pressure. During the last week of August and the first week of September, in what would be a critical phase of the battle, the Germans intensified their efforts and destroyed Fighter Command. Airfields, particularly those in the southeast, were significantly damaged, but most remained operational. On the 31st of August, Fighter Command suffered its worst day of the entire battle, but the Luftwaffe was overestimating the damage it was inflicted and wrongly came to the conclusion that the RAF was on its last legs. Fighter Command was bruised but not broken. On the 7th of September, the Germans shifted weight on their attacks away from the RAF targets onto London. This would be an error of critical importance. The raid had devastating effects on London residents, but it also gave Britain's defences time to recover. On the 15th of September, Fighter Command repelled another massive Luftwaffe assault, inflicting severe losses that were becoming increasingly unsustainable for the Germans. Although fighting would continue for several more weeks, it had become clear that the Luftwaffe had failed to secure the air superiority needed for the invasion. Hitler indefinitely postponed Operation Sea Lion. Nearly 3,000 men of the RAF took part in the Battle of Britain, those who Winston Churchill called the Few. While most of the pilots were British, Fighter Command was an international force. Men came from all over the Commonwealth and occupied Europe, from New Zealand, Australia, Canada, South Africa, Rhodesia, Belgium, France, Poland and Czechoslovakia. There were even some pilots from neutral USA and Ireland. Many people, in addition to Churchill's Few, worked to defend Britain. Ground crew, including riggers, fitters, armourers, repair and maintenance engineers, looked after the aircraft. Factory workers helped keep aircraft production up. The Observer Corps tracked incoming raids, and its tens and thousands of volunteers ensured that the 1,000 observation posts were continuously manned. Anti-aircraft guns, searchlight operators and barrage balloon crews all played a vital role in the Britain's defences. Members of the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, the WAF, served as radar operations and worked as plotters, tracking raids in groups in the sector's operation rooms. The local defence volunteers, later turned into the Home Guard, had been set up in May of 1940 as a last line of defence against German invasion. By July, nearly 1.5 million men had enrolled. The RAF was organised into different commands based on function or role, including the fighter, bomber and coastal commands. While victory in the Battle of Britain was decisively gained by Fighter Command, defence was carried out by the whole of the RAF. Britain's most senior military personnel understood the importance of the bomber in the air defence. They wrote on the 25th of May, "We cannot resist invasion by the fighter aircraft alone. Air striking force is necessary not only to meet the seaborne expedition, but also to bring direct pressure to bear upon Germany by attacking objectives in that country." In other words, RAF Bomber Command would attack the German industry, carrying out raids on ports where Germans had assembled an invasion fleet, and reduce the threat posed by the RAF by targeting airfields and aircraft production. The RAF Coastal Command also had an important role. It carried out anti-invasion patrols, provided vital intelligence on the German positions along the European coast, and occasionally bombed German shipping and the industrial targets. During the Battle of Britain, the Luftwaffe was dealt an almost lethal blow from which it never fully recovered. Although Fighter Command suffered heavy losses and was often outnumbered during actual engagements, but the British outproduced the Germans and maintained a level of aircraft production that helped them withstand their losses. The Luftwaffe, with its lack of heavy bombers and the failure to fully identify the critically important targets, never inflicted strategically significant damage. It suffered from constant supply problems, largely a result of the underachievement in aircraft production. Germany's failure to defeat the RAF and secure control of the skies over southern England made the invasion all but impossible. British victory in the Battle of Britain was decisive, but ultimately defensive in nature. In avoiding defeat, Britain secured one of its most significant victories in the Second World War. It was able to stay in the war and live to fight another day.